series 2 of 12. And we do record these so that you can go and look back and on our site and just check on any information you want to review, or check on any slides that you may have seen that you might want to copy. You can just go onto our website there and you'll find the video recorded. So today we are looking at this 2-hour class, and hopefully my machine gets going. Here we go, it's just warming up there. I just put on the screen those rules that Leslie Ann has quickly gone through for you, just in case anybody's just joined us. Have your name on the screen, of course, have your video turned on, have your microphone working so that you can interact. If your microphone isn't working and we can't talk to you, we won't be able to count this class. So I do need to be able to engage with you on questions and have you comment. Obviously, being attendance for the whole class, I'll give you 3 keywords at the end. Well, during this class that you'll share at the end, they'll come up with this little icon pops up. That's our little poodle, Merlin. When he pops up, the keyword will flash on the screen. It should be easy for you to write down. I will not respond to chat. Leslie Ann will respond to chat. If you've got any chat items, please just unmute and chime in. Just interrupt me. If you've got any questions or comments or thoughts or stories or anything you'd like to share, just literally unmute and say, Steve got this question or thought, and let's take it that way. I can't see everybody on the screen. I can see probably half a dozen of you when I'm running full screen. So that's what we'll try and do.
Can I just say something? Just checking everyone can see the screen and that everyone does have a working mic. And also, Todd, I can't see you. You're the only one that we're not able to see. Hopefully you can figure out what's going on. Sometimes we have agents who use their computer for visuals and then their phone for their photo, and or for me to see them, and their microphone. So see if that works if you're struggling to for us to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie Ann. So with Presidio, we have this Raising the Bar series, which was really Jennifer Yeo's idea to try and get all agents to raise their bar in real estate. She said this: doing the right thing in every area of our jobs only makes the industry better as a whole. Staying committed, that helps us all have a strong, resilient, long-lasting career, and will bring more referrals and business to you than you can ever imagine. That's why Presidio will pledge to raise the bar. I hope, irrespective of whichever brokerage we're with, hopefully we're all with great brokerages, we can pledge to raise our bar in this industry. As we do so, hopefully we'll be able to make it a good industry, clean industry, and have good experiences as we work with other agents that do the same. You recognise this gentleman here, President of the United States, 16th. Abraham Lincoln said, most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. Think about that. He doesn't look very happy there, does he? I'm sure he was happy when he wrote that. Anyway, let's see if we can be happy in this industry and make a difference in how we operate. We're going to look today at how to prepare a successful open house, and hopefully most of us have had an opportunity to do one of these. We may have some new agents. I know we have got some new agents on board, and they'll be interested in our ideas and experience as we share how we can make these successful. Open houses are a great way in order to connect to people and hopefully get some good buyers in to see the property. And it's a great way to get that house in shape before we start showing it. If they've got an open house to work for, it's a really good idea to have this home in a pleasant manner, so that when people come around look at it after the open house, they know what sort of standard we're looking at to keep this open house in good measure. So we'll cover the following today. We'll look at preparation, we'll look a bit about setting up. We'll also go through the presentation and the cleanup and the follow-up. That's what we'll try and cover in the next couple of hours. As I said before, please just unmute and just chime in if you've got any questions. Those of you in my classes before will know that's usually how I work. So what's the first priority? First priority, of course, let's get a date. So when you've got a client and you're going to list their property, have this discussion with them, and let's have a date that we can work towards. Sometimes you can do that fairly quickly. Other times it may take some time. There may be a number of items that they've got to work on to get their house ready in order to present it for an open house. And so let's figure out what the date is. That date may change, but let's make sure we, as long as the client is happy to have an open house, let's have a date that we can work towards, so we're all on the same page and we can get our ducks in a row and make this a good experience for everybody. All right, so I put a note on here just so that we understand, and I'm going to have a little chat about this. Let's make sure that our priority of having an open house is to sell the property. Why might I say that? Anybody got any thoughts why I might make that comment? Let's see what we got on here. I've got a whole list here, folk. Tiffany, good to have you with us again today. How are you today? How about you?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you.
Super nice to have you with us today. Why might I say that, Tiffany? Why might I say that it's important that our priority of having an open house is to sell the property? Do we ever have agents that might have an open house where they might have a different priority?
Well, some agents may just want to hurry and get it on the market, you know, ASAP, but I think it's beneficial to do an open house. I mean, in today's market, it's a lot harder. I will say that. You know, you do put a house on the market and it goes very quick. It's a seller's market right now, but it gives the buyer, or excuse me, it gives the seller an opportunity to have several people see the home and maybe possibly get multiple offers.
Yeah, perfect. Sometimes, I just load these in here just so we can have a chat about this, and stay with me on this, Tiffany. Sometimes we may have agents that are having the open house because their sole focus is to get leads. And we have seen that in the past, and probably those who've been in the industry a long time may have seen this approach. I always say that it's much better for us to have our focus on selling the home. You know, if we get some leads, that's great. That'll be wonderful. But let's make all of our efforts down to sell this home to the best buyer. And you know, if we have some unrepresented buyers come, we can get some leads, that's wonderful. But we need to make sure from the outset that we're having this open house to really present the property and sell it to obviously the best buyer. Would you agree with that, Tiffany?
Yes. And it's also good, you know, I've taken clients through homes that they've just seen photos of on the MLS, and you take them into a house and it just shows so different than pictures.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of nice to take them through an open house because it shows you the real bones of the house, where pictures don't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're in a three-dimensional setting, it's much different to watching a two-dimensional presentation. Very good. All right, so let's tootle on this and let's see if we can talk about preparation. Obviously, we have got to prepare the property. We have probably got to look at some way in which we're going to market and advertise the property. Even though we're in a seller's market, we do want to present this property to its very best platform, because that's where we're going to attract the best buyers that will obviously pay the highest or the top dollar premium for this property. We need to prepare our seller. Whichever market it is, we need to be able to prepare our seller so they expect and understand what's going to go on. We'll talk about that. And then we'll just review some of those forms and paperwork that we might be involved in. So let's tootle on and we'll talk first about preparing the property. And that brings us up to our first keyword. So let's pull that up. And you're going to jot this down. Let's put a note at the top there. Make sure that you are in line with these rules. The first keyword will be forms. That's F-O-R-M-S, forms. That should be on your screen, just shouting out for you. Just jot that down. You'll be surprised. Every now and again, I get someone who doesn't see these keywords. So that's why I throw them on the screen so that you can clearly see them. Write it down. We will not share this keyword again, and we cannot share it in the chat. If someone has missed a keyword, please reach out to Leslie Ann privately, and she will be able to help you. Forms is the first keyword. All right, so prepare the property before photography, hopefully, because we want to get the best photographs we possibly can. Stage your home, make it look like a model home. Let's talk about removing clutter. All right, this is a big one, and sometimes it's a little sensitive when we're approaching a client that might have a lot of clutter. Of course, if they remove the clutter, they are going to get a better price for the property. So there is a price tag attached to removing clutter. So who'd like to talk to me about importance of removing clutter? And those of you in my lessons or classes will know I don't wait too long before I call on someone.
I can speak to that.
Thank you. What's your name? I can't see you, so just tell me your name.
Steve.
Stephen, how are you? Good to have you with us. Talk to us about clutter.
Well, clutter has an obvious distraction from the value of the home, and it doesn't allow people to really see it or picture it as their own because they're distracted by that clutter. And clutter can be as small as a bunch of pictures on the wall, or it can be, somebody who's needs an intervention, all the way down to stacks of paper all the way down the hall. So it varies. I always try to get them to remove everything from that they possibly can that allow people to picture their own family portraits on the wall as opposed to theirs. Knickknacks, hobbies, collections. I let them know guns, jewelry, prescription drugs. These are all things that need to be put away, and set the expectation that, it's manageable. I did tell one young gal in a condo when she says, I removed all 75 pictures. How do I plug the holes in the wall? And I said, well, just use some toothpaste. I get in there to inspect it before the open house, and there's little blue dots everywhere, right? So you've got to think through how people are going to react to your instructions. And you try not to be offensive, but I mean, it's really hard, excuse me, with a hoarder. At that end of the spectrum, somebody who really keeps a lot of stuff, can't throw anything away. And you just want to back a dumpster up and get a snow shovel and start shoveling it out. But you have to be really sensitive to the client. And luckily, in this market, it's not as hard. People can look through the trash and someone's going to, put an offer on it. But I do think it would be higher if it was cleaned out and had a staged look.
Yeah, very good, Steve. If they're going to sell the property, believe it or not, they are going to have to move everything out the property sooner or later. So you can have that conversation and say, hey, we're going to be moving everything out anyway. So why don't we move the stuff out that we need in order to make this home look good? We've got a lot of agents on today. There's bound to be an agent here that has had a very difficult task with a client when they've approached this topic of clutter and the client can't see it. How do we work with that? Who'd like to help me with some thoughts on that? How do we work with a client that just cannot see that the house is cluttered, and so it's very difficult to get it removed? Sherry, how would you like to chime in on that one? I know you won't mind me asking you.
I actually haven't had to confront that problem at all. I've had some really good clients. I usually say something like, if you want it to sell like a Mercedes, it needs to look like a Mercedes. But that doesn't address the fact that they can't see that it's not looking like a Mercedes already. So I just say, the less stuff that you have of your own is better, because the people can come in and actually visualize themselves in here with their own items. And so I don't have a good answer for that. I haven't really had to work with a hoarder or anything like that. So.
Well, I think that was a good suggestion there. If you want it saying like a Mercedes, let's make it look like one. Sometimes, we have someone who's very sensitive in this area, and they seriously cannot see their home is going to be difficult to sell in the condition it's in. We have to be very respectful of the client, very delicate, but we also have to let them know that in order for us to get top dollar for the home, even in a seller's market, even in a seller's market, we need to try and make this home look as best as we possibly can, and they will get more money if they remove the clutter, whatever that clutter may be. Good. Let's look at some of these other things that are kind of connected to a little bit. I'll just load these in and then we'll just have a little chat about them. So, of course, some homes may need a deep clean, you know, and that may be something we might be able to help them with. I know some agents will offer part of their service a type of deep clean help. But some homes do need a deep clean. They may not have been at a deep clean for many years, and that will certainly make a difference. When we're talking about clutter, let's also remind ourselves we're not only talking about what's inside the house, but also what is outside. And sometimes we can see clutter or junk or stuff that goes from one place to another, and it can end up just being outside in a heap. We've got to try and get rid of that. If there's nowhere to put it, we need to at least put it all in the same place. Even if it's inside the home, maybe we find a section in the basement, or we have one of the rooms that we put it all in. But it's better to have it all in one place than spread out throughout the home. We've got rain gutters, certainly this time of the year. If we've got houses that we're looking at preparing, often those rain gutters will be full of leaves or debris. Let's see if we can clean those out. That will certainly be helpful, because if we get a downpour of rain or snow, usually it will disturb what we have there, and then we'll have all of that debris on the floor, and that will not help us when we're showing the home. Stonework and siding sometimes looks better if we can give it a nice good wash with a jet spray or something. And let's try and make that front door as inviting as we possibly can. Sometimes a lick of paint can help. Certainly a new welcoming mat can always be nice, and maybe, you know, when we get into the better months, foul basket is good. New numbers on a home also make a difference. Let me just pause there for a moment, see if anybody's got anything else they'd like to add to or comment on any of those areas.
Hey, Steve.
Yes, thank you.
All of these things are so subjective, and what is clean to one person or decluttered to one person is not to another. I find that with my teenagers. When I ask them to clean their room, their definition of clean is very different from mine. And so I think it's important to remind our sellers that the purpose is to sell your home, and people like to envision themselves in your home and want to be able to put their furniture, oh, our couch would fit here, our table would fit here. And if it's so cluttered, then it's hard for them to do that.
Yeah,
or if it's
thanks for that, Minette. And you also find, Minette, that often people, when they're walking around a home that does have other things in there, it fills up their mind. They can't empty their brain of it. They only see the clutter. If there is a challenge in a home, often people only see that. And that sometimes becomes, you know, what they remember about the home. Have you noticed that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you do have to be careful, because some people will get offended because they think you're judging them. And so you have to be very careful, but then just let them know that less is more. And if we can just get rid of the clutter, then you're more likely to sell your home, because people can actually see themselves in it. The other thing I was going to mention is, what about personal pictures with family pictures? I tell people to remove those. I've actually heard of stories where someone was walking through the home and they saw the family picture, knew them, didn't have a very good opinion about them, and didn't want anything to do with the home. But I tell them to remove the family pictures also, because people want to envision their family in that home. If they see another family's picture, it kind of takes away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we've done for many years is we've encouraged our client to have a stager come in, and we've said to them, look, the stage is only going to cost a couple of $100, and we will reimburse that cost you at settlement. So it won't cost you anything ultimately. But the benefit of having a stager come in is they will go through the home. They'll give you a fairly good evaluation of the home, and they'll say, you know, remove these photographs, they'll remove this bit of furniture, or change this out. And they'll just go through each piece of that property, and they'll give them pointers. And then, of course, they'll they'll highlight them, and this is the most important down to the least important, and we'll say to our client, they'll try and get as many of these items done as you possibly can. And because it's a different person that's really not connected or knows them, often they'll listen to those people easier than they would or might listen to us when they know us. Sometimes the offending card doesn't show its ugly head so much if you're working with a third party. Has anybody tried that? Or has anybody got any thoughts on that? Okay, well, that may be something you might consider. But as Minette said, people need to be able to see themselves in the home. And if you've got personal items on the walls, or maybe religious items or political items, or things that are, sometimes can be difficult for people that are not feeling the same, then you probably want to move those out of the home. I just show this little image here. When you're trying to stage a home, open space is always important. When I first started in business, I was a commercial artist, so I actually worked for the largest design centre in Europe at the time. And when we were designing images, there would be posters or windows or leaflets or brochures, whatever it was always to do with the open space is part of the selling. You don't fill everything up. And it's the same with a house. If you look in this image here, there's a couple of shelves there that are completely empty. And you'll notice that there is space, on that hanger to the right and on the ones at the bottom. So that people can see it's like an invitation for them to walk in. And if you're looking at rooms, whether it's closets or cupboards or drawers or anything that they're going to open up, if you can make it, not completely jam-packed of whatever the stuff that's in there, but have open space in there. Look at the drawer, they open it up and it's not completely full. It maybe is only 70, 80% full. That is an invitation for them to participate in that space. So think about that when you're working on preparing a home, that open space is invitation, and it certainly can help a house look much, much more inviting. Anybody got any comments or thoughts or anything to add to on that slide?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please just tell. Oh, is that Julia? Is it
This
Julia?
is Julia. The one thing that I have done with clients that don't see their home from a consumer's perspective is I've taken them out to tour a few other homes, and then I can point out how clean the home is, or how they've washed the windows, how it's the staging impacts it. I think that in my experience, we live in a very small circle in our own minds, and
Right.
just putting them in the car and taking them out to tour a few homes to see the market, and that seems to really drive the point home, and they go home and clean their house.
Julia, that's a great comment. That's a great suggestion, because what you're doing then, you're showing something in action. And often when they see a home that's well staged, they can then imagine how they can make their own home look to the same sort of standard. And they can get excited about this process. Selling a home is very exciting, really, ultimately, for these people involved. And, let's make this a fun and exciting project. Great comment. Thank you, Julia. Okay, let's toodle on and see where we go. Other items we might consider on preparing the property. So we are going to have that discussion with them, and there may very well be things that might need some attention or adjustment or repair in the home. Let's figure out what they are, and let's see if we can get those done. There may be some repairs that they cannot do or they will not do, and that's totally fine as long as we know what that is. Those that they cannot do, they may need a contractor to come in and do them, and that may be down the track when we've got this process going. But the repairs that they can do, let's see if we can get them done before we show the home, because they've got to be done anyway. We might as well do it. Make sure when you're working with that basement, often we've got unfinished basements, in Utah. Let's make sure they're clean. Okay, this basement has stuff in there, but it's clean, it's tidy. As you can see, the floor is swept, and that makes it inviting. You know, even though the ceiling's not done, the walls are not done, at least it's clean. Really important that is. And if you have got things that are ending up in the basement, you know, like moving boxes and whatnot, let's make sure you do not cover any of the important areas that someone may want to see. Obviously the mechanical room, but also there's the main water shut off to the property. Make sure you can access that. People like to see that. So make sure your basements are clean and tidy. When you're working in your rooms, obviously rooms need to look as big as possible. Sometimes you may have to rearrange furniture. Sometimes you may have to remove some furniture to achieve that. Let's talk about this one. There is a consideration of air neutralizers or soft scent aromatherapy type platforms. Let's talk about this. Sometimes this can go too far. So let's open up there. Anybody like to talk to me about how we need to be sensitive if we're working with air neutralizers or scent machines or accessories in rooms?
Well, I know that there are some people that are allergic
Yes.
to senses, and so we need to be very cognizant of that. I know a lot of people like to, when you're showing a home or having people walk through, have a good smell. So there'll be cookies or something, which I think is great, but the, what do you call it? The oils, the essential oils, some people are very allergic to those, and it can cause a bad reaction. So we need to be careful about that.
Yeah. And if we're going to do this, then it doesn't need to be overpowering. You shouldn't walk into it and think, oh my goodness, what are they trying to cover up here? What cat smell or dog smell are they trying to help me not to recognize is in the home? So then it needs to be soft. And if we are using scents, let's use scents that are not obscure, but you know, ones that most people would not have an allergic reaction to. Any other thoughts on smells in rooms, in houses, in properties? Those who've been in real estate for a long time will have been in some properties where there certainly are some difficult odors to work with. Anybody like to talk to me about that?
Even this is Ellen Morris here. I actually kind of wanted to back up just a little bit.
Thank you.
Talking about making sure that the property is cleaned out in advance. I had an incident. It was about 10 years ago, so the market was a lot different, and I was representing the buyer, and the listing agent had actually worked with his seller for over 10 months trying to get the property cleaned. I guess he just had a whole lot of problems with the seller. We got it under contract with the buyer, and we came actually down. The property had closed. The seller was still in there. He had call junk to pull things out of there. The listing agent was so tired that he said, I'm done. Have your buyers sue the guy. We ended up having the junk people literally become the U-Haul company and move his stuff, paying the junk company, while our buyers had their U-Haul truck coming in. So it isn't just whether or not the buyers can see it, it's what kind of mess is going to be there come closing. And, we're at that last 24 hours, and, a buyer's either going to back out at that last 24 hours or have to move forward. And a seller that can't see past their junk, almost to the point that, they're a hoarder. We were really close to some legal action. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I do have a slide down the track on that particular point, that it's really important when we, particularly if we're representing the seller, that we make sure, the property's broom clean. We'll probably talk about that a bit later on. But yeah, sometimes people don't understand exactly how they should be leaving that property. And it can be very frustrating for buyers that are moving into a home that's not cleaned properly and left properly. thanks for that.
Well, and it was frustrating, just real quick, it was frustrating for us because at the end of it, the listing agent, he was gone. He said, I'm done with it. And literally I was there coordinating between my buyers moving their stuff in and this seller getting his stuff out to avoid, legal. So.
Yeah, and that listing agent should have, stayed with the course, but, there's different standards of agents in real estate, just as there are different standards in every industry. And so you just had to make up the difference there, Ellen. So well done for making up the difference, because we're trying to make this transaction work. And I think we've all done that when we've had to work with folk that have not really been up to the measure. Okay, so yeah, let's just be careful on the way in which homes smell, particularly with animals. If you are working with a home that may have had some heavy traffic from animals, it may be good to get some professional cleaners in to help with some of that preparation. Be careful with carpets, of course. Often when you've got a cat smelling a carpet, it's very difficult to get it out. You've got to work with those crystallizing products, and sometimes that doesn't work either because the urine has gone right down to the base of the floor. Sometimes that carpet's got to be completely replaced. If you are going to do that, make sure you do it right at the very end. Otherwise, you could end up with a new carpet being soiled. Anybody have any challenges with animals in trying to sell a home or even buy a home they'd like to share? Okay, just think about that. Bed covers, clean and neutral color is always favorable. Try and make every surface you've got, whether it's a horizontal surface or a vertical surface, make sure it's clean, make it shine. That's the key thing. And think about ceiling fans, especially at this time of the year. Often those ceiling fans have not been used for a few months and may well have attracted a fair amount of dust. And so if you're thinking of preparing a home now and we get a spell of warm weather, you put that ceiling fan on, you'll end up with dust all over the home. So just make sure when you're working in homes, you can prepare even the ceiling fan by just cleaning off that dust before we get going on this. Windows, of course, and mirrors and floors are a great place to show cleanliness. I would suggest you always have the windows cleaned inside and outside. And if you get a professional cleaner, that can really make a huge difference to the way in which this home looks. Anybody got any comments on any of that, particularly windows? Okay, you may decide to get a water spray in for the garage and the outbuildings and the sheds and the pathways. That can certainly get rid of a lot of weed or dirt or grime that may be in between patios or slabs or whatever. Anybody got any other comments or contributions on that slide? Okay, one final note there. We all have those little vent covers. They often capture quite a bit of dirt over the year or years, and they can look quite unsightly. So really good idea to clean those up as well. See if you can clean those little vents. They're the ones that have got like the little bent sort of metal. They capture a lot of the dust. So see if you can clean those up. That will make the house look very, very nice. Some other thoughts on preparation. So obviously outside, we're going to obviously cut the lawn if we're in the summer months, pull the weeds, trim the flower beds, tidy up the veg patches, make sure we make it look as clean and tidy as possible. We're going to do the windows, I mentioned that. Check roofing tiles and pipe fittings. Sometimes those pipe fittings can get worn over years. It's not very expensive to get those replaced if you've got a pipe fitting that needs some help there. But when people look at the roof, they see worn or broken or torn pipe fittings that can not look as nice as it should do. Repair fences and gates and pathways. How many of us been to a property and we literally can't get to the backyard through the side fence because, I mean, through the side gate, because both the fence and the gate is so badly broken. It's been strapped up with string or wire, and you've got to go through the house to get to the back of the house. So if that's the case, make sure those gates are working and, you know, fences and whatnot are repaired. Irrigation, obviously at this time of the year, we've not got the irrigation on, so a prospective buyer cannot necessarily test that, but we can put a note there and say this was winterized and it was all working full order, and this is who we have to come and set it up for the summer if you have a contractor that does that. Well, if you don't, you do it yourself, and you leave a little note that might show what you would do in order to set it all up and also to winterize your system so that your buyers know that you are caring for the property. Touch-up paint is pretty important. Certainly here in Utah, when that sun gets out there, sometimes we can see, you know, one side of the house that has really been hit hard, and often you'll see that side garage door that's got a lot of peeled off paint. You know, sand it down, clean it up, and liquor paint will do the world of making that look much, much nicer. Make sure you know the property lines, where the boundaries are, and if there are any easements, make sure they're noted so that we can share that with the buyers. Anybody got any thoughts or comments on any of those items on that slide? Have you all gone to sleep on me? Minette, I know you're not going to sleep on me. So, anybody got any thoughts they'd like to share on anything there? Let's have someone chime in. I have to pick on someone. Lisa, how about you chiming in and saying hello to everybody today? Would you unmute? Tell us how long you've been a realtor for.
Was it me that you were talking to?
Yes. How are you doing today?
I actually don't feel very good.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well,
it's good this is
nice
online.
Yeah, well, it's good it's online. How long have you been a realtor for?
I've been in real estate pretty much my whole life. I've been in the rental side.
Okay.
So,
you've seen a lot of stories then if you've been in the rental side.
oh man, have I ever. So we walked in. I also used to clean houses that had been repossessed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we walked into a house one time and it smelled kind of weird. We went down in the basement. There was a bathtub ring about a foot from the ceiling, mold up to that point.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really bad. We all got sick, everybody that had gone in.
Oh dear.
So, yeah, that was fun. So weeds taller than we are in other ones.
And because you've been in the rental industry, you know more than most people that when you've got a property you're trying to sell and there are renters in it, it's really difficult sometimes to get some renters to prepare that property to sell. Definitely.
We've also had renters that wouldn't even allow people in.
Yeah,
So
glad you raised that. Yeah.
They made it a pain to even see show the property.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. It's sorry you don't feel too well today, but thanks for your contribution there. And that was a couple of good highlighted items. When we are working with a seller that has renters in there, it does become sometimes a compound problem for us to get this house ready. And we have another problem sometimes because we can't show the house as often as we want because we have to work through that second layer of not ownership, but person that's in the home. All right, so let's move on to the next slide here. And I've got a few other items here just to think about. So I'll just load these in and then we can have a little chat about them and see whether or not we can learn something from this. Sometimes we'll have a property that will have outbuildings. Just make sure these outbuildings are accessible and you have keys to them. Some years ago, I'd actually traveled out, I think it might have been I don't know, 30, 35 minutes travel. So I traveled, you know, a good distance to get to the home to meet my clients. I was representing the buyer. Beautiful home. They were very interested in the outbuilding. The outbuilding was superb looking outbuilding. But we got there, looked at the home, which was great. Went to the outbuilding, it was locked. And so I called the listing agent. I said, hey, you know, we can't get into the outbuilding. Where's the keys? And he was a long way. He was further out than we were. He was like 45 minutes out. And he said, oh, he says, that's a problem. He says, I actually have got a key, but I can't get there and the owners are out of town. And it was really disappointing because my client, they loved the house and they really wanted to see this outbuilding, but we couldn't get in there. And so disappointment really. So just make sure that when you're working with a home, just kind of think of it, is there anything else that I need to be able to access? And particularly if the owners are going to be away and you can't get hold of them quick enough, make sure you've got the keys or know where the keys are to get them into that building. Another area is wasteland. Sometimes if you're selling a piece of land, it might be in the middle of some other pieces of land, or you may have to get over some land to get to your land. If that's the case, make sure you've got permission to cross that property. We did have an agent on here a few months ago, and they were selling a piece of land and they were walking across, they were looking at buying a piece of land and they were walking across another piece of land to get to the piece of land they wanted to buy. And the owner came out and was quite rude to them and told them clearly to get off his property. So just be aware that doesn't happen very often, but if you are looking at land that may not be easily accessible from public roads or trails, make sure you got permission from the other owners. And I put a note here to be careful if you're using third-party helpers. Make sure they understand what they can and cannot do. Often if you're working with a larger home, or you're working with a home in a very busy market, which may be this market, as we're in a seller's market, you're expecting lots of activity there, you may need some help. And you can have some non-real estate agent help, as long as they understand what they're helping with. Obviously, they can't advise or be involved in any part of the discussion of the property, but they can help with security, and they can help us welcoming, and they can help us clean up. So you may also have another professional there, like a lender, that may have a desk where she or he can share their information. But pause there for a moment. Anybody got any thoughts or comments or stories that they might like to share on that slide? Okay. Let's talk about advertising and marketing, because if you notice on a lot of our legal documents, it clearly says that that's what we're specialised in, well, that's what we're experts in, the advertising and marketing of the property. We've got to try and get people through that front door. And so some of the things we might look at are these. I'll write these in, and then we'll have a little chat about these and see if we can learn something. So first of all, let's look at that top one. Post online, of course. The M&S is going to be the first place we're going to put this, because that's the place where most people are going to find their home. But there are other places that we may consider putting in some advertising or some highlighting of a property, whether it be Facebook, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, real estate agent website, blogging, or whatever it may be. Let's pause there for a moment. Has anybody got any experience or thoughts or comments about how we might market the website online? Okay, I'll start picking people. Let's have Ray. Let's have you come on board, Ray, and say hello to everybody. How are you today? Is Ray still with us? Let's have a look. Are you still with us, Ray? Let me just see, am I scrolling here? Maybe Ray's not with us anymore. Oh, I can't
unmute, Ray. We can't hear you. We can see you, Ray, but we can't hear you.
Oh, yeah, we can see you, Ray. Can you click the unmute button? If Leslie-Ann is there, she can actually unmute.
It's along the bottom. You should see some icons. One is a camera, one is a microphone. You've got to uncross the microphone.
Can you unmute him, Leslie-Ann, or not?
I can't. I can ask someone to unmute, but he is unmuted.
He can also hit the space bar to unmute.
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
there he is. He's just done it.
I found alternate A and I got it.
How you
So
doing, Ray?
I'm doing fine. What's your question?
Good. Nice to have you with us today, Ray. How long you been a realtor for?
Oh, I don't know, 25 years or so, maybe
Oh, a
30.
long time. You've probably seen all the twists and turns in this industry.
Yeah. Just to
So,
let you know, my wife is in England today.
oh, she is? What
I
part of
saw
England is she
that
in?
and I wondered if you were joining her.
No, I've got to make money so she can keep spending it.
Oh, I love it.
Well, if she's in England, she'll certainly be spending it quickly because
Yeah.
it's very expensive.
She's purchased a van in England and she's all over the place.
She's
Well-
brave to do that. I saw it and I'm like, wow.
Well, the fuel over there, just those of you who are thinking the fuel's expensive here, then you go to England, you're about $8 or $9 a gallon at the moment. So, you know, we're pretty good as far as the fuel is concerned at the moment.
So it's
So tell
expensive
me-
here and ridiculous there.
That's right, yeah. So tell me, Ray, on that screen there, anything you'd like to add or comment on in your 20 years being a realtor?
All of the things that you've listed, basically, I have done, and I typically will check to see where the schools are and where the church is and when they meet and that, because a lot of people coming through want to know about that too.
Yeah, great idea. Great idea. Thank you. So some of these items here, has anybody done door-to-door flyers in preparation for an open house?
I have.
Ah, who is that? Is that Sherry?
Sherry.
Sherry, yeah. Tell us about that.
I never had any success with it, but I would make up like 100 just listed open house this Saturday type of flyers, and I'd go around about 800 or 100 houses around the house that's listed, and you know, let them know that this is an opportunity. If they have any buddy in mind that they can help pick their new neighbors, that type of thing. But
Right.
I've never had any success with that.
Yeah, but you may have had success with your client thinking you were going above and beyond and doing
What it
extra.
does is it brings in all the neighborhood looky-loos.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, we'll talk about those. The nosy neighbours. Sometimes those nosy neighbours can be very helpful though, because they do know people, and often they can share their thoughts on the home or the realtor. So good, yeah, door to door. Some agents have found some success doing that. It certainly is worth a go if you've not had a chance to do that. What about knocking on doors in a neighbourhood? Some focus not just on the, you know, the homes closely surrounding the open house. Say, hey, we're doing an open house this Saturday. Love to invite you to come in. Anybody had a go at that?
I was taught to do that in my previous brokerage. That way you also get them to sign saying you can put signs on in their yard.
Right.
Like at the corner houses of the main streets, they had us knock on those doors and talk to them, make sure it was okay to put signs in their yard.
Yeah.
I just
What
did an
also-
open house a couple weeks ago, and I had most of the neighborhood come and see the house. Most of them were looky-loos, but I did meet somebody who would like to purchase. So
That's right. It also gets your name around and people get
Yeah.
to know you. As you say, sometimes you can pick up an interested possible contact or even client. So very good. Make sure you got those specification sheets so that you've got them ready. So when you are running that open house, you can share that information with those that arrive. Obviously have your business cards. And some folk will, or some realtors will create a little video that they may share online with the locals. They go and do a little interview, a few locals, to talk about the community or the area, or you know how wonderful it is to live in this particular neighborhood. Put a note there, invite your, obviously everybody, realtors know realtors, so you know, invite realtors you know to bring their buyers, and if the agent can't make it, ask them to send their clients anyway, and you look after them on their behalf. Don't let any of your realtor friends think, oh, I won't send my client because I don't want you to be poaching my contact. So you look after them, and that can also increase a good attendance for your open house. Any other thoughts or comments on that slide before we move on? Okay, I always want to get people out the front door. That's what we're after. Let's talk about preparing the cellar. This is pretty important. So not everybody wants an open house, and we did touch on this a little bit earlier on in this class today. Let's talk about this a little bit. We do need to have a conversation with them. Obviously, we'd like an open house. It does depend on the market, of course, and in this particular market where we're short on inventory, most likely that house is going to sell whether it has an open house or not. But are we going to get the best buyer if we don't do an open house? So let's talk about it with our client. And there'll be some times that a client may not feel comfortable having an open house. Let's talk about what some of those reasons may be. Anybody like to share on that? Okay. Courtney, how would you like to talk to me about that? You still with me, Courtney? Oh, I see.
I am here.
Perfect. How long have you been a realtor for?
A month. So
brilliant. You're the perfect person to talk to. Well done. Well done. That's right. I do remember. You've been on one of our classes before, haven't you? I do remember that. I speak to that many people. I can't remember everybody. But you've been a realtor longer now than you were the last time I spoke to you, because these weeks are ticking away, aren't they? Well, first of all, have you got any clients yet? Have you started? Have you got anybody you're working with?
Yeah, I have a client. She's under contract.
Perfect. Is that a buyer or a seller?
She's a buyer.
She's a buyer. Okay, perfect. So you started already showing homes and figuring out how difficult it is sometimes to find in this seller's market the right place.
Took a while, but it was good.
Good. If you hopefully going to get another client soon, if it was a seller, so you get to list a home, which is a lot of fun, and you have a seller that says, they're not really lined up to do an open house, what may be some of the reasons you may think that they would have why they would not want an open house?
I honestly don't know. I would assume maybe just they don't want to allow every single person in or have heavy foot traffic. I know I've seen a lot of people on the MLS and like homes that we've gone into that have said that they want like people to be wearing masks and hand sanitizer and take COVID tests before and different things just because they don't want COVID in the house, I guess. But I think it's an easy way to get people into the house and not have to keep leaving your house all the time. So
right. Yeah, that's a great comment. If we have a good, successful open house, we most likely in this market can be done and dusted on the one day, and they won't have to show the house continually thereafter. I've just put a few small notes there. Sometimes people have a lot of junk, they just can't move it and they feel a bit embarrassed about having an open house. We talked about nosy neighbours, and also there may be some concerns about security. Did someone else have a comment there? Did I hear someone chime in?
I've got a client right now that I'm working with, and she does not want an open house because she doesn't want people coming through looking through her closets and drawers. She's very, very concerned about lots of people coming in and having it not very controlled. And I've told her several times that I would have an agent on every level of the home, but even then, it's not like you can hover over everybody that's there. So she has real concerns about her privacy. Yeah.
Perfect. And we just got to be careful that we're not forcing anybody into having an open house. I mean, we're looking at trying to sell the property. We know that's going to be very helpful to get people in quickly. But if we've got someone who's very uncomfortable, we don't force it. We say, no problem, we will work this a different way. But even with your client there, Sherry, if she's going to have showings, she's still going to have people have got to walk through the home, haven't they? And so you're trying to balance that that concern with some comfortableness somewhere along the way. Yeah. Hopefully, whatever we do when we speak with our client there, we can make him or her happy about whatever we're doing with them with regards to having or not having an open house. That's pretty important. Here's some other thoughts you might consider. Helping them understand some of the benefits of having an open house, inform the neighborhood that you're selling. They may know someone that's interested in viewing your home. You know, some people might be concerned about the nosy neighbors coming in, you know, but they may know people, and often, you know, they'd be quite happy to tell them about the house. It does generate a certain excitement about the neighborhood that the house is being sold, it's on the market, and of course gives us a great opportunity. I think someone mentioned this earlier on today, a great opportunity to get sort of a fast feedback on the price and the features of the home and any concerns that we might have with this home. Agents are pretty good when we follow up and say, yeah, this was it showed well, or maybe they said, oh, this part there was a bit of a challenge for us, or they may say, yes, that it's priced well. That's really helpful for us as a listing agent. I think we've covered most of that. Any other comments on that slide? I'm running out of voice here. Okay, here's some other thoughts you may consider. So we are in a seller's market at the moment, and most likely we're going to have multiple offers. So let's talk about that. If we're in a buyer's market, then we could be talking about we may have an open house and have no offers. But let's talk about this, the expectations of getting an offer in this market and how we might deal with multiple offers with our client. Who we've not heard from today? What about, let's see, Todd, how would you like to chime in on that one? Can you speak to us, Todd? Are you available to unmute? I'm trying to see if I can see him. Maybe he's not with us. You still there, Todd? Nope, I can't see him. Maybe he's gone. Okay, let's have someone else chime in on that one then. Connie, how about you? Would you like to chime in on that for me?
Sure.
Perfect. How are you today?
Fine, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for joining us today. How long have you been working in real estate for?
About 25 years. I just do it part-time, but
You've got a lot of experience.
What you're doing. Yep, learn a lot.
Yeah. So tell us, Connie, you got your client, you're going to list their home. We're in this seller's market at the moment. You know, there's a very good chance, obviously depending on what the price of the home is and where it is, but there's a good chance we're probably going to get some multiple offers. How do you prepare your seller for that?
Like you said, in this market, there's going to be, if the house is all acceptable and priced right, you're going to get lots of offers, and to expect them, and they will be thrilled. I would be thrilled.
Yeah.
So, especially during an open house, that gives everybody an opportunity to come through and just look over the property and now expect higher than list price.
Yeah, obviously depending on what the list price is, of course. It's a good idea to have a conversation with your seller, if you are representing the seller as a listing agent, about how we might handle these multiple offers. You're probably all familiar with the caution or use or not use of love letters around properties. Help our seller understand what are some of the things we'll be looking at if we are looking at multiple offers. We're not just looking at the price, are we? Is that correct? Is it just, okay, Connie, tell me more about that, Connie. We're not just looking at the price. Not the highest price gets the deal, is it?
Sad to say. When you bring your clients in and you've got it's a acceptable offer, well, that you want this buyer to have an opportunity to purchase a home, and some comes in with extraordinary amounts of money that they can offer. And this market is very restricted to that in that case.
Right, very good. Yeah, we're looking at all the facts. We're looking at the dates. We're looking at the the deadline dates. We're looking at the earnest money. We're looking at flexibility. We're looking at qualification. Of course, we're looking at the price as well. But just make sure they're understanding that when we go through the procedure, and if you've got half a dozen offers there, what we're going to be looking at. We are not going to be looking at the type of people that are looking at buying the home. So it's good to have that conversation. Let's talk about security. I think we highlighted this a little bit earlier on. So how important is it that we have the conversation about security? Anybody tell me what it says in the agreement about listing their home about security? Who's responsible for security? You've got to chime in, guys. I'd have to pick another person off my list here. Let's see, we've not heard from then. I've heard from quite a few of you today, which is pretty
I'll
good.
comment on that, Stephen.
Thank you. Who's speaking?
This is Tiffany Raymond.
Oh, Tiffany. Yeah, great. Thank you.
I think if the seller is concerned about, any kind of potential for theft or anything in the home, the security is up to them to not leave the cash or leave the valuables or guns or jewelry that's of importance out where people can see it or access it. It's basically their responsibility to lock that stuff up, put it away, secure it, and make sure that it doesn't become an issue when people do go through the house.
Yeah, and that's basically what they sign for. It clearly says in the agreement that they will be responsible for security. Of course, we will do everything we possibly can to look after the home when it's in our care. We're running an open house. But as Tiffany said, their responsibility is to make sure they don't leave those valuables around. Has anybody had an occasion where a client has called them and said, hey, this has been stolen, and then you've had to go through that experience? Anybody had that they'd like to share? You have to have my story then, if you haven't got a story there. I had it once happen several years ago. Did the open house, everything was fine. After the open house, about, I don't know, probably thinking maybe an hour or hour and a half after, we'd finished and seller had gone back into the home, I get a call, and it goes a bit like this. I'm not very happy. Why is that? My ring, I don't know if it was a wedding ring or an engagement, I can't remember now. My gold ring has been stolen. And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. What's going on here? I said, are you absolutely sure? Yeah, definitely stolen. I said, well, where was it? It was on my bedside, cabinet, whatever it is, drawer unit. I said, you sure it was there? Yeah, it's gone. Someone's taken my ring. I'm thinking I could do without this. So I kept cool. I said, okay, leave this with me a bit. Let's have a think about this. Just have another look around, make sure it's nowhere else. Okay. But I always take a list of people that go through an open house. So, I've got a note of the people that have been through the hub. And inside I'm thinking, this is a real problem for me. So I tell her to, don't worry about it. We'll figure this out. Go and look around and see if you can't see it anywhere else. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So I just take a big deep breath for a while. 30 minutes later, thankfully, it was only about 30 minutes later, she calls, I found my ring. And I'm thinking, thank goodness for that. So it does happen sometimes. Sometimes people forget what they're doing. And obviously she'd forgotten that she'd moved her ring and thought it had been taken. But she was completely confident when she first spoke to me that that rig had been stolen. So really have this conversation with your client before you start any showings or have any open house. Help them understand it's their responsibility, as Tiffany said, to look after all of their valuables. Don't leave anything around. Lock it up, put it away, move it. Do not leave it around, because it's a real challenge if you're trying to fix that after, and if something had been taken. Any comments on that?
You know, I did have an experience with this once,
you,
and it
Julia.
was in the, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
It was
perfect.
in the last ramp up, and it was a home in the Avenues, and we had done all the things that we've talked about. You know, we were working the neighborhood, sent out flyers, knocked on doors, you know, had all this advertising, and had the open house. And just like today, there's so many people coming through these homes, even on the tours. Keeping track of everybody goes through that home is maybe unrealistic, just because there's the volume of people, there's just masses of people. Anyhow, at the end of the open house, a police car came up to our home, and somebody had been, they had actually made a traffic stop, and this person, the police officer could see that they looked suspicious. They had open house flyers, and they had some stolen things in the home, and this person had been going in and out of open houses and stealing things. And you know, the reality is that there are people that go in and out of these homes, and it's hard to watch what's going on. And boy, I sure tell people to put things away now after that.
Yeah, very good. Great story, Julia. Thanks for sharing that. Hopefully we can remember that story. It does happen.
It does happen. It really does.
Let's just make sure we keep our sellers wise on this. Perfect.
And Steve,
All right,
there's variations on it as well, where people will pull a guitar off the wall and sit down and strum it. And you're talking with clients in one room, you got to run in there, go, what the heck? And they're busy riffing out some song. And
doing a bit
and
of
the client may have a camera, and you know,
Yes.
they can see that going on, and you get a phone call while you're not minding the store while they're out. Yeah. That black
You're absolutely
eye.
right, Steve. People have got cameras, they got microphones, they got everything these days, and you've got to be really careful. Yeah, they just lift the piano lid and start playing some music, or pick that guitar off the wall, and away they go. And you know, it's not appropriate. So yeah, we just got to be sharp in this as much as we can. We can't do everything, we do our best. Make sure we prepare the seller and make sure that we are doing our best to keep this home safe. Little chat on pets. Of course, if you can remove the pets from the home, that is really what we're after here. Sometimes that cannot be possible, but let's have that conversation with our client, and let's, if possible, remove the pets and remove any evidence of pets being there, you know, bowls or crates or beds. It's just good to have that out of the home. And of course, we're trying to get rid of the smells, and you know, sometimes people have allergies to pets as well. So anybody like to comment on pets?
Steve,
Yes.
I was going to ask you about that. I did a listing presentation a few weeks ago, and this woman has a cat. She's a very clean person, so I didn't smell anything, but this cat was just roaming around, and people have allergies to pets, of course. And so we were talking about during showings or open houses, she'll need to put her cat in a little kennel or something in the meantime, or take it somewhere. And she's like, no, I'll just let him roam around. He'll be fine. And I was like, well, there are people that have allergies and that sort of thing. He's like, oh, okay, well, maybe they could wear masks or something. So that was the response. I was like, I don't know what to say to that. What do you say to that?
You know, there are also some people that are just afraid of animals, literally afraid of cats. And the funniest thing I've found with cats, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've found the people that don't like cats, often the cats will come up to them and sort of, you know, rub up them and kind of climb up them a little bit. It's quite funny, actually. But yeah, it's a challenge, and we've got to try and help our clients say, hey, you know, we just got to be respectful of everybody here. And even though your cat loves you, not everybody's going to love the cat. Idea the cat has got to be crated up, or it's got to be removed, because it could really have it could be a problem. And I don't know whether or not that particular cat is always inside and she doesn't want her outside, but you know, the cat could go outside if you've got an open house quite easily. Sometimes they don't want the cats outside. Okay, just consider pets, guys. That you've got to have that conversation, because in some cases it can be a bit frustrating if it goes a little bit AY. Here's another thought here you might consider. If you've got items that are going to be repaired but they haven't been repaired, then have a list somewhere so that your potential buyers can see, yeah, we're aware of the broken window in the basement, that is going to be repaired, we've got the glass on order and it should be done the next couple of weeks, or whatever it may be, so that buyers can see that you've taken care of that area. We're trying to stage this home, we're trying to make it look good, we're trying to get it to a stage where people can, you know, feel like they are ready and able to put themselves in the home. Remind your seller you're preparing to sell it, and it's different to living in it. You know, it's going to be a show house, or while we've got an open house or we're showing the home, it's not really a home that we live in. We live in homes that are livable. In show homes or open house homes, they're not the real world. Okay, so just hoping to understand there is a difference. Any other comments on that slide? Okay, here's some thoughts on paperwork. We'll just talk about this. I'll load these in because I think it's important that we understand what we might be able to do on paperwork. First of all, keep it simple. Whatever you use for paperwork, make it simple. I think it's a really good idea to have a sign-up form. You know, you don't know who's coming into the home. You know, and if you had someone helping you just on the door, they could easily say, hey, we'd love to have you sign in so that we know who's been here, so we can, you know, make sure that our seller is aware of who's bought the property. Just simple name, phone, if they've got a realtor or not, and of course their email. Have your specifications there. Any flyers that you may have done, have them there. And of course, if you've got any other party that's involved in this transaction with you, like a lender, then obviously have their sheets there as well. Any comments on that side? Brings us up to our next keyword then. I'm going to move a little bit quicker now because I can see the time's going quicker than I'm going. So number 2 keyword is going to be flyers. I can't share with you the first keyword, but I think it did begin with the letter F. So that was the first keyword. This is the second keyword, flyers, F-L-Y-E-R-S. Can you see that, flyers? That's our second keyword. I'll just jot that down. And for some reason, my internet stopped. So I'm just going to, oh no, here we go. It's got going again. There we go. Oh, my goodness, what happened there? That's really strange. Okay, let's see if we can just move a bit quicker here. There we go. Every now and again, it gets stuck. So setting up, we've got signs, we've got literature, we've got obviously the interior. Maybe we might have some gifts going along. Sometimes we do that in open houses. And let's go through these one at a time. So signs, we've got directional signs. Maybe we might use flags. Maybe we might use balloons. Balloons are easy to do. And maybe we may just have that welcoming mat on the front there. Anybody got any comments or observations on the importance of using signs? There must be someone out there want to comment on signs. Who we got? I've not heard from yet.
You might want to, certain cities don't allow signs. Good. Like West Jordan's pretty fierce on picking up signs. You'll put them out and an hour later, your signs are stolen by the city. So you might want to check local regs on that.
Yeah, very good. That's exactly what I wanted to highlight there. I think the next slide goes through that. Well, it doesn't. Okay, we'll keep on that one. Yeah, so wherever you are, make sure you're using the correct signage that is appropriate for that city. I know in like Daybreak, for instance, you can't even put your own for sale sign up without it being one of theirs. You've got to have one of their types with the HOA, with your detail. You can't have your own that you've got with your brokerage. It's got to be a certain size, and you can't put directional signs on many of those streets there. So just be aware of what you can and cannot do. If you are using those directional signs, be careful where you're putting them. Don't put them on people's lawns, put them on the exterior strip. I know that's the council owned, but the property owner has responsibility for carrying it. So sometimes you may have to get some permission from that property owner. Usually if you're working on corners where you can put your signs by, you know, city signs, then usually you're pretty good there. And you can usually back up with other people that have got an open house in the area and try and direct that traffic in. But as just mentioned, be careful of your directional signs. I would suggest you don't put them up more than an hour before your open house, you know, and take them down immediately after. So they're just up for a short time. Most of the cities are okay with that. But, you know, if you put them up Friday night for an open house on Saturday, you'll probably find that they'll be gone. So do your homework on signs and make sure you're following any rules that may be in that area or neighborhood. Balloons are good to use because they do attract people to the property very good because they're blowing around in the air, and you know, you can go to different places. I mean, even to Smith's, the store, they'll have like a balloon department, and usually they'll give you whatever colors you want to work with your own brokerage in-house colors. So make sure your signs are good and make sure you get the people in there. Literature, you may have various amounts of literature. You may have some handouts, you may have some flyers, you may have business cards. I hopefully I've got those. You've got your little forms, and maybe you might have a little laptop there with a web link showing some 3D tour you've had done of the home, if it's a big property, or drone footage, which can be quite nice rolling as you're showing this property. Interior, so I would always say use professional photography. Try not to do it on your own little iPhone. Let's get someone who can do it well. Make sure you make these houses look big and inviting. Make sure all your lights are turned on. Make sure all your drapes or your blinds are completely open so you get the maximum of light in there. Consider ceiling fans, of course. If you are in hot days and you're having those fans run, make sure they are running correctly. They're not clanking or clicking or dirty. So if you're going to use ceiling fans, make sure they're working well and they are clean. Let's go to some other areas on the interior. So make sure you got all of your rooms open. So all of your doors are open. You see this shot here, it's going right through to that half bathroom at the end there, and the door is open. Okay. We may want to talk about the bathroom actually while we're on this. Let's talk about the bathroom. Anybody got any thoughts about possible buyers coming in with their family and using the restroom facilities? Who'd like to talk to me about that?
I was gonna say, make sure the toilet seat, the lid is put down on your pictures.
Okay, that's definitely a good idea. What else might we do when we're schooling our agent if we're the buyer's agent? And also the seller's agent. There are some things we can do to help on this because it's kind of a sensitive area, and you know, some people are oblivious to how sensitive this might be.
So are we still talking about photos, or are we talking about?
We're on the restroom now. So we're on the restroom. We've progressed to the next level. The restroom. We have the family coming, and the kids are in there in the bathroom because they're absolutely bursting, and you know, we're in someone's house here. Talk to me about that. Is that a good thing?
I think that as a seller, you basically better just expect that there may be a moment when they need to use a bathroom. So get it clean and get it prepared for it. You know what I mean? It's some people absolutely can't stand that thought. But it's got to either be presented as, well, get used to it, or out of sight, out of mind. I don't know. But, you know, you got a 3-year-old that's got to use a bathroom. The 3-year-old's going to use the bathroom, and better the bathroom than somewhere else.
Right. Okay, let's take Justin's point there. And you also got to remember, which it has been highlighted, that a lot of these homes may have cameras or microphones in, and if they're uncomfortable with use of bathrooms, we need to do something with both of our clients. So if we're representing a listing, with the seller, I would suggest you have this conversation beforehand. And if the seller says, we're really very uncomfortable about anybody using our bathroom, right? Then we might then suggest to that seller, why don't we put like a little note, on the bathroom door area, where it might say something like, thank you for not using our restrooms. Something simple like that would help buyers that come in that understand that, that's a out of bounds area. Okay, if we're representing the buyer, I would always suggest you talk to the family before and say, hey, let's make sure little Johnny goes to the restroom before we get going on this, because it's courteous and etiquette not to use the seller's restroom facilities when we're showing a home.
Can I say something really quick?
Yes, please do. Who's calling? Who's talking?
It's Ching.
Oh, Ching, great. Let's have you.
Yeah. So I think also for a seller is, if there are multiple bathrooms, just kind of saying that, hey, we can block off your master bathroom. Okay. We can block off, but just kind of saying that, hey, we can just designate this bathroom, so it's presented that way, that they are not feeling we're absolutely no bathroom, but just say, hey, what about we use this instead of letting everybody in, so they sound that they can feel that you're still thinking about them, instead of not bringing it up, or still politely saying that we can just designate the front door bathroom, or just for someone that need it, but we can just block off everything else and say, hey, no bathroom in that area.
Great piece of counsel there, Chin. Thank you for sharing that. We need to have the conversation with our seller, and we also, if we're representing the buyer, ideally help them understand what we're trying to do here is showing the home. We're only going to be in there 15 minutes, and let's make sure everybody's used the restroom before we get going. That's what we're trying to do. And if you're doing multiple houses, then maybe you do 2 or 3 houses, then you go to, I don't know, McDonald's or Burger King or something, and have a snack, and then then we're all taken care of. It is a sensitive area, particularly in this type of world we live in, where there are a lot more people that are health conscious, and it becomes difficult to tidy up if we don't have the conversation beforehand. That's what I'm trying to say here. Have the conversation beforehand, so prevention is better than cure, because some people can get very upset about that area. Okay, let's move on. We've got a couple of items here that I note. So just make sure you've got keys to everything that's going on. I mentioned that earlier. I put a note down here about rooms that may be not visible. I had a client a few years ago. He said, "You want to see my gun room?" I said, "Okay, let's see the gun room." He was pretty excited about his gun room. He takes me down to the basement, and I can't see any room. Anyway, he clicks this little. It's a bit like watching Clutter. He clicks this little secret button and opens up part of the wall. And at the back there, he's got his gun room, which is great. He's got all his lights in there, and he's got his shelves and his little table and his guns and his ammo. And I'm thinking, this is amazing. You could not have found that room if he'd not told us. He says, this is a great feature, isn't it? It's a pretty good feature. I said, but we'll need to remove the guns, of course, and obviously the ammo. And you're happy for me to show? He says, yeah, you're happy to show. And obviously everything was fine. But you may have a room in a house that you may not know about. Some friends of ours bought a house, and it was a year later they found an extra room there. It was a large house. They found another room about a year later. Oh, there's another room here. Never knew it was there. So just be aware of all of those areas in a house that may not be visible. All right, just tootle on here. We'll move a bit quicker now if I can. And I'll just run through the setting a dining table might look good if you've got the ability to do that. Certainly for open house or showings, it can be very inviting. If you're working on the kitchen, try and make sure the kitchen is clear as much as possible. Just have a few things there, but clear as much as you possibly can off those surfaces, because they'll look a lot cleaner, a lot brighter, and a lot more inviting. You go upstairs, of course, and you've got sometimes you may have dirt or grime between tiles, certainly in bathrooms or in the shower. See if we can get those cleaned up. They can make a huge difference when someone walks into a master bath. And the same with the bedrooms. Make sure you've got as much carpet showing as possible, and that you've got the ability to walk out on the balcony. That door needs to be unlocked. Usually you can lock them from the inside, but sometimes they may have a key lock that needs to be activated before you can get out there. So just make sure you can get hold of everything you need to when you're working on the interior of the home. If you've got a newly laid carpet, or you've got a carpet in a sort of a high traffic area, and worried about it getting, completely creamed with a lot of traffic on a busy open house, maybe get some of that protective plastic covering that you can easily roll out in traffic areas. Usually you'll find that people walk on the plastic, even if you run it through a room, they'll figure that out, and that'll be easy to work. Sometimes you may have clients that will prefer people to come in and put like little booties on. If that's the case, have those little booties at the front door there. Put a note on here. A lot of men like this information. They usually like the garage, like the mechanical room, but there may not be very much information in there. So what you may decide to do is put like a little directional sign highlighting some features, and you may put a little sign that says, this HVAC or this furnish was replaced or renewed or serviced on this date, and we have it serviced every year or 2 years or whatever it may be. Give a bit of extra information, because that's useful to a buyer. They can see that you are looking after your property as the seller, and sharing information that cannot be seen. And of course they think, oh, if they're sharing this, they've probably done a really good job on everything else within the home. So just note on the condition of the property in some of these areas, and then maybe you might highlight some areas that may not be noticeable otherwise, unless you put a sign there. I should have really asked you any questions on that last slide. Anybody got any questions on that? Oops, so well, I've gone all over the place here today. Let's get going. That one there. Anybody got any questions on the mechanical room or comments? Okay, good. Let's talk about giveaways or gifts. Something you may consider, may not, may consider. Decide. We've already someone talked about doing baking. So here are some thoughts you may consider. Candy obviously always goes down pretty well with anybody. And I would suggest it's wrapped candy if you're going to do that. Certainly cookies or fresh bread. Certainly water is good to have. That's usually quite happy to receive. Maybe you might have a pen or something with your name on you might share. Some people do raffles, and whoops, that went a bit too quick as well. So anybody got any thoughts or comments on this, or areas that we need to be aware of that we are sensitive about if we are going to run with some of these gift type things in an open house? Okay. Have I heard from everybody today? Let me see. Hey, Liberty, I've not heard from you today. How about you chiming in? Liberty's one of our new agents. I know she's only just got going, but she has got her first client, so that's very exciting. Liberty, can you tell me about any things we might want to be concerned about if we're looking at these type of gifts? I mean, these are great. We always do something when we do an open house. Anything you might share that we might want to just be aware of?
Maybe allergies, or like, I mean, with COVID, there's a lot of worry about like food and spreading germs and stuff. So
excellent, excellent. Yeah, think about allergies, think about unwrapped food. And also, you might want to also consider if you are going to give them something, give them on the way out. The cookie might be better as they're walking out from the property rather than walking around the property and dropping their crumbs on the carpet. What Leslie and I, we've always done just the small candy, you know, like that one there with the small Snickers and the Twix. They're all wrapped, and you know, they take them on the way out, and of course, you know, they'll take care of their trash as well, rather than having to pick it up through the building. So just think about that if you are doing gifts. It's a good idea because people do like it, but just be sensitive that you are going to obviously make sure this home is left in the same condition you started off with. Any other comments or thoughts on that slide? Okay, let's toodle on to information technology. And there are a few things here you might consider helpful. So obviously you don't have your phone with you, but you could have a laptop with information on. If you're in a home that's got some music that could be running, that could be good. Make sure if you are going to do that, it's soft and gentle. And you may want to put a note there that says, you know, don't adjust the volume or adjust the station. If you've got a movie theatre, you might want to put a movie on there. And again, you might have a note somewhere to remind the buyers not to adjust any of the settings. Any thoughts or comments on that slide? Okay. Anybody like to add anything to presentation before we move on to the cleanup area? Anybody here during this particular industry of seller's market, where we've probably got lots of feet walking through a home? Anybody had any challenges when they've been representing the seller with damages or debris or dirt or untidiness or anything in the home after high traffic has gone through the home? Anybody like to comment on how we might deal with that or prevent that, or any challenges in that area if we have got high traffic in homes, which is most possible at this time?
These cameras everywhere have significantly reduced any problems that we've had. And I think even a little note saying, you know, you don't have to be snooty, but a little note saying that there are cameras in the house. Most people don't have the audacity to do things knowing there are cameras there, but there are a few, but that would deter it a little bit.
Yeah, stay with me, Justin. That's a great comment, that is. And let's just go a little bit deeper on that. It's a really good idea to have that conversation with your buyer, let them know that there definitely are cameras in lots of homes, even on the front door these days. You know, before you get going into the home, you can see often who's coming into the home with that camera on the ring. But let us be sensitive to various things here. So, you know, we're coming out of the winter months, and sometimes we can have some very slushy, muddy pathways up to the home, and particularly if we've got a family with the little ones, sometimes we can miss those muddy boots walking into the house before we have a chance to deal with it. How might we work with that, Justin, when we're working with multiple buyers coming that may not be thinking about the mud that's on their footwear?
In terms of how to stop it or prevent it or clean up.
Yeah, talk to me about that. Because at the end of it, when you finish showing your home, Justin, you've had, you know, 50 people in it, and then you can see this light colored carpet's got this pathway running through the house, and you've got to get this home hopefully back into a good measure of cleanliness before you hand it back to the client, really, because he or she's not be happy if they see their house, you know, a little bit trashed on the carpet wise. How are you going to deal with that? Talk to me about that process so it can help new agents here that maybe have not done open houses.
Well, I don't know how detailed you want to talk about, but one, like you said, put those little plastic or any visqueen or any of that, careful to have not non-slippery surfaces. But you may have to be, you're going to have to be around to kind of clean up and to tidy up little things like that. That's kind of just a good agent kind of just makes that their baby, so to speak. You know, like we said, little notes and things like that can help prevent it. But when it does happen, we have the responsibility, I think, to make it clean and make it right and then presentable for the next client and walking through.
Yeah, very good, very good. And let's just touch base on the next client walking through. Because we're in a seller's market, often we can open up the home, we open up the super, in we go, and before we are leaving the home, the next agent's there, chomping at the bit. They've got their client all lined up, and at the moment the super is recording our details as the person that's opened up the home. What might we consider doing before we leave the home, before that next agent comes in? Who'd like to talk to me about that? Someone's going to talk to me. Who's going to talk to me about that? Because it's quite an important area. I'll have to pick on someone, you know.
Well, it's the same principle. You don't want to be responsible for things that you didn't do. It's always best to lock that thing up as you're walking out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what you're meaning or not, but super
That's
is open. You unlock it to get in and you lock it to get out and put it right back in so that you have a timed frame. It's all recorded and you know when exactly you were there and that it was locked up.
Yeah, get off the clock.
That's right. Yeah. That obviously that doesn't happen in an open house because it's open house, but I'm just talking about showings there. So if you are representing the buyer, just lock it up, let the next one unlock it, and at least they know what time period you were in the property. That was just a sideline thought there. Okay, good. So with regards to the presentation, just make sure when you are you've got people coming into the home, you've thought about everything, you can discuss it with your client and make sure you're wise before. You won't necessarily stop at everything going wrong, but you'll stop most of it, you know. And if you are on a wet day, it's a good idea to have those booties at the front, have a little sign that says, thank you for using our little booties as you walk through this home, because then at least you'll have less clear ups to do. Okay. Let's go to our next slide here on cleanup, which Justin has just talked a little bit about. And let's see if we can. Oops, what happened there? What is going on today? Have I gone through these slides? Oh no, I haven't gone through these slides yet. This is a little section here. I'm running out of voice. That's because I'm doing too much talking. Okay. I did cover that earlier. If you have got a lender, sometimes realtors will have lenders that will join them. If so, you can have a little lender bench there, and that can be nice because they'll also promote you as the realtor. Let's just go through these slides. I think we've covered most of this. Let's see. I'll just load these in. Let's see if we can go through these quickly. I mentioned earlier, if you've got a busy time or a large property, you may have some help, so you can keep an eye on what's going on, keep it nice and security wise. Certainly watch people's personalities. You can read people. Those who've been on the DISC personality styles lesson will know what I'm talking about there. If you want to do that lesson, it will be coming up in the next few weeks. But you can read people, you can figure out where people are as far as their interest in the property. Have them sign in. I've talked a bit about that. Let's see what else we got here. We talked about the bathroom. Yeah, we talked about using the guitar. Same with playing on the trampoline. We talked about all those areas. That's good. Okay, I think we've covered all of those. We covered the shoes off policy. Let's see what else we've got here. Talk about highlighting features. There may be some features they may not be aware of. You may have some expensive rocks or steps you can highlight. You may have fruit. You've got fruit you're getting each year. You may have some photographs of that. You talk about water features or curbing or whatever you've got going on in the home. Share the information. If it's not easily noticeable, sharing information can help increase the value of the property. You may also consider showing photographs of the property at different times of the day or even different times of the year. Sometimes, showing a property at night time, showing how the lighting may work, may be very advantageous for buyers when they're choosing the property, showing their views and showing how the property looks at night time can be fun. Have some photographs. You could put those on a laptop and have it in a loop, or you could just have some prints out that may be helpful to ongoing buyers. You may also show the property at different times of the year. If you're showing it during the winter months, they won't see the beautiful colour that you've got in your yard or gardens, and it's a good idea to share that with them. It will certainly encourage them to see the property at different times of the year. Any thoughts or comments on that slide? All right, so we run into the last few minutes of this class. We'll have our third keyword, which we'll just pull up now. So we have our 2 keywords, and this is our third one. This is photographs. So PHOTO, GRAPHS, photographs will be the third keyword. The other 2 keywords we've had. If for some reason you missed a keyword, we cannot share it on chat. So talk to Leslie Ann privately, and hopefully she'll be able to help you. But photographs is the third keyword on this class today. All right, let's talk about cleanup. I have a few minutes on this, and Justin has already prepared us a little bit about cleanup, so let's talk about it. So I'm going to just, obviously make sure you've got all your information. You'll have information from clients that have come in with agents, and you'll have hopefully information from possible contacts that have come in without agents. Make sure you've got that detail, you don't leave it there. And then obviously we've got to tidy up and clean the house. We'll talk about lost property in a moment. So you want to give the house back in the same condition that it was given to you. And you make sure that all of your your lights are taken care of, your windows, make sure your windows are all shut. Sometimes when you're in the hot months, sometimes windows may have been opened by people walking the home, so be aware of that. Make sure doors and windows are closed and locked up, and that everything's good. And if you've got to do a bit of sweeping up on a kitchen floor or get the vacuum out, then do that. Make sure you hand over this home as nicely as you possibly can to your client. Any comments on cleaning up the house? Okay, let's talk about lost property. Have we heard from everybody today? Anybody like to chime in on lost property that we're not heard about? No, I think we've got everybody on our list. I'm just looking at my list here. We're supposed to engage everybody, so that's good. All right. So anybody have any lost property, either at an open house or at a showing or at any time that buyers have been into a home?
I had one of my families that I took through a house. When they got home, they found that their kid had swiped a toy. And so I had to go get it from them and then take it back to the house.
Yeah, that's funny. Tell us, Ray, just tell us how you navigated through that process.
Well, it was the family that I represented. They did not know that that toy was gone. It was just the people that came through gave me a call and said, we've got this toy. So I went over to their house, picked it up, brought it back to the owners, and they said thank you. And it was that simple and that easy.
Yeah, and that was great that worked out so fun, because often kids have got so many toys in that maybe it may not have ever been noticed it was gone, you know what I mean? Because it just goes into another pot, doesn't it? We don't tend to look at all the little toys that our kiddies have, but good on that family, good on the parenting for figuring out that little Johnny had taken a shine to the little truck or whatever it was. So let's just talk about this and stay with me on this, Ray, because you've had a little bit of experience here. But let's say, for instance, Ray, you've done your open house, everything went well, and you're just walking around the house, tidying up, and then you see this jacket. Maybe it's a jacket, or maybe it's a small bag, or maybe it's something, and you're thinking, I can't remember seeing that when I started this open house. It seems like someone has left this. And maybe in the jacket, there may be a purse or a wallet or something. And now you've got this to deal with. How would you handle that? You have no idea where it's come from. You're pretty confident it wasn't there when you started off.
Well, I would first contact the family for the open house I was conducting and make sure it's not theirs. And then I would take it myself and I'd go to my list that I had that everybody that came through and ask them if they've lost something. And when they can give me the right description, then we'll just meet up with them and get it to them.
Yeah, very good. So 2 things you mentioned there, Ray, which I think we should take note of. Number one, obviously you've got a list of all the people that have been through the home, which is your advantage because now you know who you might contact. If you didn't have a list at all, you basically would not know who to contact, would you? So you highlighted that. That's good.
Yeah. If you didn't do a list, you're just stupid if you don't do a list.
Okay. Yeah, I can see a few people smiling at that one. I wasn't going to say that, but you are right. So yeah, list is an advantage for you. If for some reason you can't figure out whose this is, and maybe someone did come through the property and didn't sign your little form, but now you've got this item of lost property that may have some valuables in it, what might you do next, Ray?
Well, probably see how much you can get on Facebook or something by listing it.
You're gonna laugh a minute. So this is what we would probably do. It's what I would suggest you do if you end up with this situation. You need to get it into a third party. So obviously you could report it to the police and it could go to a police station, or you could take it to your brokerage, to their office and have them log it. So another person knows that this item has been handed in. And then hopefully someone will contact you and say, yeah, I've lost this jacket. Do you know about it? So yeah, it's at the brokerage, and you'll just go there and make sure.
It sounds like it could also, Steve, be another reason to contact your list of people who signed up.
Yes.
And inquire about, whether they're still looking for a home and a jacket, and possibly turn that into something more than a return.
Yeah. Very good. So just be aware of lost property. It does happen from time to time, and we need to be able to take care of it carefully. Try and get a third person involved, so you got a witness, so that nobody's thinking you're taking it. We talked about that item. We talked about make sure you remove those directional signs as quick as you possibly can, and call the seller. All right, when you've finished. You may have already said to them, "I'm planning on finishing at 2 o'clock, but I will give you a call when we are done," because maybe someone comes in at 5 to 2 and you're with them for 20 minutes. And so you don't want the seller turning up until your people have left the home. All right. So call the seller, say, we're all good to go. We're all cleaned up. Please come and, enjoy your property back. You're obviously going to tell the seller how it went. And then you're going to follow up and hopefully either sit down with the seller or meet them on the telephone. And you're going to go through what you have learned from those agents that have brought buyers through, or the buyers that you've contacted to find out if we've got any interest. Sellers love it if they can have a full report from you as the agent, because I know you've done a great job. And even in a buyer's market where sometimes you may not have had very many people come through the open house, or in some cases you may have nobody come through the open house, you have to deal with this a slightly different way. But the seller needs to know everything you know about how this process went, to be totally honest with them. Any comments on follow-up? Hopefully in this market, you've got a buyer and you're ready to go and you're discussing possible multiple offers, which is wonderful. Okay, anybody got anything to add to that slide? Okay, so let's see what we learned today. We hopefully learned something new. Anybody like to highlight something new they found today that they've not thought about before? And bound to be someone out there that found something new.
Well, the one thing that I can tell you is when you hit Alt-A, you take your speaker off of mute. This is the first Zoom thing I've ever done. So anyway, I now know that, and next time I'll figure out how to put my name on the however it got on the screen.
We're making
somehow my name Ray got on there, but my last name's not there.
That's okay. We're grateful for your participation today. So if you've learned something new, jot it down, add it to your little toolbox, and hopefully when you work on your next open house, it can be as successful as you would like it to be. I surely appreciate your comments today. Thanks for being with us. And invite Leslie Ann to come online, let us know what